Street Fighter 6 gameplay trailer just released. Well, it has while I'm writing the script. Hey now, these videos take a long time to write and make, alright? I swear I'm not lazy. Anyways, the trailer came out with a full website that included a surprising amount of detail regarding the game mechanics, and within it was a new control scheme called Modern. This is a mode where special attacks no longer are motion inputs and are replaced by holding a direction and pressing a button. Very similar to Granblue Fantasy Versus and DNF Duel. However, due to the way Street Fighter 6 controls and plays, this mode will have massive differences compared to those games. So in this video, I would like to analyze the new control scheme and how they might affect players. Before we do start though, I would like to mention that these analyses are based off of what is shown on the website and trailers of a game that's not released yet. There will most likely be changes before launch, and some things will be based on speculation. So think this as a fun discussion and theorization. Alright, let's first start off with the most apparent difference between these games. Street Fighter 6 allows you to choose between motion and no motion inputs, whereas Granblue Fantasy Versus and DNF Duel have one universal control scheme. I think this was necessary if Street Fighter 6 was planning to keep its 6-button configuration. Adding a 7th button for special will be way too much for beginners, which is what the control scheme is designed for. And if the attack buttons were reduced from 6 to 4 to make one unified control scheme, legacy players would most likely complain about the lack of choices in normals. With that said, let's take a closer look at modern controls. The 6 attack buttons are now reduced to 3 normals: light, medium, and heavy, along with one special macro. There are a few considerations with this design. One is that all the basic attack buttons can be accessed through the face buttons on pad. This is the controller type that most people play on, especially if they are new. Not many beginners will purchase a stick or button type controller on a genre they may or may not like. Anyways, having all the main attacks accessible to one finger can make execution a lot more straightforward. Second, simplifying the attacks to light, medium, and heavy instead of punches and kicks can decrease the choice anxiety for new players. For example, if a player needs to use a fast attack, they don't have to decide between punches and kicks and just press light attack. This also might make more sense for some characters like Boxer, where pretty much all his attacks are done with his fists. As welcoming as this is for new players, it might be tricky condensing 6 buttons from classic mode into 3. Will each modern control button represent one button from classic mode? Will light attacks simply be light punch or light kick? Or will it be a combination? For example, standing attacks can be punch buttons, while crouching attacks can be kicks. The latter makes more sense in terms of utility. The developer can adjust buttons in terms of what makes more sense for the character. If standing heavy punch is an anti-air, but crouching heavy kick is a sweep, it makes more sense to have both available on the heavy button. I just hope it's not done in a way where directional inputs are different between modern and classic. For example, making crouching heavy punch a standing heavy, or back medium punch into a standing medium. This can make the transition from modern to classic controls very awkward. The special button functions similar to Granblue Fantasy Versus and DNF Duel. However, since the control schemes are separated, modern controls cannot emulate the different strengths for each special. For example, if use neutral special equates to medium punch Hadouken, it cannot do the light or heavy versions. This is to be expected since modern is sacrificing complexity for simplified execution and decision making. I do, however, hope motion inputs are still allowed in this mode. It would be nice to let players practice motion inputs in a simpler scheme if they plan to transition to classic. As a side note, the website shows it use Hadouken as a forward special instead of down. I'm very glad that they made this decision to put a reversal on a direction that can't be held while blocking. The last thing I'm going through is the assist button. This seems to automate combos by rapidly hitting the button. This concept is not new, as it is done in games such as Dragon Ball FighterZ, Under Night In-Birth, and Melty Blood Type Lumina. The key difference here is that it is on a dedicated button. I personally like this choice since this makes auto combos less intrusive and done with more intent. The games I brought out as examples all had auto combos assigned to a normal attack, making mashing certain normals often come with unintended outcomes. Having a dedicated button allows players to mash in situations that they see fit, and also emulates how classic controls work, potentially making the transition a bit smoother. However, this is from the perspective of an experienced player, and I'm not sure how new players will view this. Some players may rather mash one button to see things happen, and others may want to do things with more intent. Regardless, having a button to mash for combos may not be a bad idea. With all that said, I generally like and agree where Capcom is going with this. It's extremely difficult to satisfy both beginners and veterans with one control scheme. And frankly, separation was probably the only realistic way to prevent alienation of longtime players. It also bounces in a way where modern controls are easier but lacks options. It feels like it is intended to be a training wheel to help beginners ride the bike that is Street Fighter. And once they become confident and look for the next challenge, they can transition to classic mode. I just hope the developers have a good method of explaining the benefits and place a good guiding system to help with the transition. I'm not worried too much about this though. A lot of the initial designs seem to indicate that they have put in a lot of thought into this aspect. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the new control scheme. Do you like it? Is there anything you would do differently? If you like this topic, consider checking out another video on our channel, Effects of Motion Inputs. In this video, I talk about how motion inputs affect gameplay and how lack of them can create problems in games such as DNF Duel. Alright, until next time, have fun with fighting games.